Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the live stream where today we're going to talk about our emotional life journey.
That's right.
Nikita, thanks for joining us.
Say hello.
Hello.
What's your name?
My name is Nikita.
How old are you?
7.5.
Oh my gosh. When are you going to be 8?
When are you going to be 8? December?
December.
Well, thanks for joining us on the live stream. Ninny, how are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. What are we going to be talking about?
So today we're going to talk about our life journey, which is very interesting. Myself, Daniels, and also Nikita. Yeah. So
Tell
we're
us
going
more.
So in here, in the life journey, what we will be looking at is during our life journey, each stage we might experiencing different emotion. And those emotions might impact us for the future decision making. So in here, what we're going to look at is how those emotions that, trigger in certain period of our time impacting us along the way. So we're going to find out a little bit more about that.
What we've learned over the years, we've been doing this work for 11 years and we've had more than 7,250 clients through our trainings around the world. What we've discovered is that everybody is held back by mental and emotional blockages.
Yes.
And normally around about the age of 30 to 35, we start to have this feeling of unfulfilled potential. We're doing jobs and we don't feel fulfilled. We're in relationships and we don't feel deep love. We're doing a job that kind of makes financial sense. It pays the bills. The boss doesn't give me any problems. I've got to drive a couple of hours to and from work again. It's okay, but it's not what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And we find that people go through these moments of darkness and they're constantly asking themselves, who am I? And so what we've learned is that we have a lot of limitations, self-limiting beliefs. We have unresolved feelings of anger, fear,
Frustration,
sadness. What's the other one starting with G? What's that one?
guilt.
Guilt.
Yes.
Guilt for things we've done, guilt for things that we should have done, and guilt for things we haven't done yet. It's really interesting. And so we've been using this new technology. This new technology measures our emotional intelligence through the use of a voice recording.
Yes.
And with a 90-second voice recording, we can discover more than 1,441 emotional triggers throughout our emotional life journey. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at Ninny's emotional life journey. We're going to have a look at Cup Noodle's emotional life journey. And then we're going to have a look at
Baba.
Baba.
We're going to have a look at Bubba's emotional life journey. So let's get into it. So just go over to the chat box for us. Let us know that you can see us clearly. Make sure you can hear us clearly. Look, Uncle Arthur's here. She says, hello, Nikita.
说叔叔你好.
Shushu ni hao. Good to see you there. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We're going to start by giving you a quick overview of what we do. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. How about we use this one? Okay, let's share this one. So our approach to this is very, very simple. We take a 90-second voice recording. Now, when you do this voice recording, you could sing for 90 seconds.
Yes.
You could do your ABCs for 90 seconds. You could count to 90.
Yes.
You could speak in what languages, Ninny?
Any language. So for Nikita saying in Mandarin, and I have two of my clients did in Mandarin as well. And for me, I did it in English.
And so our technology is not listening to the words you speak, it's listening to the frequencies that are inside of your voice. And the frequencies inside of your voice tell us about the brain wave activity. It measures your brain wave activity. It measures all the frequencies operating inside of your body. And so in 90 seconds, we can discover more than 1,441 blind spots. And then what we do is we help our client break through those. So on the screen here now, we have Ninny's emotional life journey.
Yes.
So how old are you? I know it's not nice for me to ask your age, Ninny, but how old are you now?
41.
You're 41. Okay.
Yes.
So what we have here on the screen is Ninny's emotional life journey. Starting on the right-hand side at birth all the way through to age 41.
Yes.
And you can see here, about halfway through Ninny's journey, we see these bars go from green and they turn red.
Yeah.
Now, these red bars represent time of life for Ninny where there's been a lot of emotional stress. And so we want to break this down today. The artificial intelligence has picked this up and has said, as a part of your emotional life journey, Ninny, there's been some major events here.
Yes.
And we're going to unpick these and unpack these events so you can see what was happening in Ninny's life at these time and how it impacted her.
Yep.
So, Ninny, starting over here, what can we see here? We can see here that life's going along really well for you. And then at around about age 14 or 15, where that G bar is, it looks like some life events started to take place.
Yes.
And some things started to change. What was happening for you?
So I would say 14, 15, around that time, that was the time I finished my junior high school. So in Asia, you usually have to go for this big, exam to make sure you go into the right high school, the good high school. But I remember I went to those exams. Unfortunately, I'm not very good in math. My history or Mandarin was okay. My English is really good. However, I didn't get, the overall grade is not that good for me to get into the number one school that I really want to go to. So, which means I have to go for the second one. And I think for me, that brings a lot of pressure to myself because that school is not the one I really want to go. However, I have no choice. So I went to the school, but that high school, I doesn't really enjoy the times there. The subject, the major is not the one I like, but because the score I got, I only can went to that specific major. So which made me really, just stress. I don't feel.
In terms of the stress you were feeling, what type of emotional stress were you going through and what impact did it have on you?
I think I have that disappointment in myself. Also feel I probably disappoint my parents as well. I would say a little bit self-blame, those emotions to myself. Try to figure out what else I can do for my life because I don't.
How were you feeling back then at that time? How were you feeling?
Feel angry, frustrated. Yeah, a lot of anger and the frustrations for me around that time.
So what happened after that? We can see here that bar went higher. So we go from G and it goes up to F sharp around about age 20. What was happening for you on the lead up to age 20? What type of events were taking place in your life and how did it make you feel?
I think that time was that I transferred myself to another 5-year college. So it's far away from home. So a lot of things need to be adapt. I got my job with the first airline when I was 19. So I think that's a different emotion change. I'm excited, but at the same time, I feel a little bit anxious because I move further away to, I have to move to Taipei and have my own space, live by myself. It's really interesting when I see this bar is that I used to do a lot of long haul flight, and those long haul flight trigger my anxiety because I feel I remember I always call sick for my long haul flight. I feel so uncomfortable when I have to go on a long haul flight, but I have to do those flights. So those conflicts that made me feel really uncomfortable, and I think I've been diagnosed probably about 20. I have the depressions. So I think that was the time the bar is really high because I've been through at least a year medications. And then my parents decided to, send me to America. So I resigned.
So around about 20, you've been diagnosed with depression. You've started to take medication, and we can see that bar gets higher and higher. What's happening in these following years? What's causing stress in your life at this stage?
I have a lot of feel like soul searching for myself. I went to America, another new environment changing. I remember I first moved to Cleveland, which is where our uncle live. It's not a lot of Asian out there. I remember in my first year of the university,
You're not Asian.
I am of Asian.
No, you tell me you're you're Dutch.
Yeah, that's 116.
So you're
Okay.
1/16 Duchess.
Anyway, so in the class, I remember in the classroom that I'm the only Asian in the class. So I have that a little bit of loneliness. So a lot of emotional changing, feel like, oh, wants to make friends, all this stuff. And I think missing family a lot.
And how long did that last for? Because we can see here on the emotional life journey that this is going on for probably at least about 3 years.
Yeah, because I stay in America probably total about 3 or 4 years. Then I went to Cleveland for a while. I did first year, and then I decided I want to transfer to Hawaii, and I dropped out from Hawaii. I want to go back home because I feel I couldn't bear with those emotions, the emotion of feeling loneliness, feeling sad. Went back for 6 months, and I just feel like I have to finish my degree. And then I went, and then I decided to fly back to America, to Hawaii, and finish my degree. So, and I think that time I probably, in the relationship, I know I'm happy, but at the same time.
You're in a relationship, but we didn't meet till a lot longer after. Are you telling me you had a boyfriend before? Oh my gosh.
Of course.
Your mother had a boyfriend before she met me.
Of course, and a lot. So anyway, so I think that in that kind of, in a relationship, you don't know where you're going. So a lot of soul searching for myself. So I can tell my emotion was really up and down. Now when I recorded, when I was as a student. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Ninny's emotional life journey, and we can see there that a lot of the emotions that had a big impact on her were starting around about age 15 and then going all the way up till just before age 30. And so we learned all of this through a 90-second voice recording. Stored in your body is a memory of all of this, and it's being picked up in the voice recording. And so we can see that. And we wanted to test this, didn't we? We wanted to test this, and we wanted to see how accurate this was. So if you have children, we have 2.
Yes.
We've also used this technology to map out Nikita's life journey. Do you want to have a look at your emotional life journey, baby G? Y-E-S, yes. Okay. Well, here's Nikita's emotional life journey. Now, she's almost 8. So she's going to be 8 in December, you're going to be 8. So we've had a look here, and we've had a look at her emotional life journey. And we can see that there's some red bars here, some green bars, followed by some red bars, followed by some more green bars. So we started to map out her emotional life journey.
Yes.
Now, what we know is that just at the time of birth, if we go all the way over to the right-hand side, we see this very high red bar. Ninny had a very uncomfortable pregnancy.
Yes.
And so in Dubai, when we're living in Dubai, Ninny was having a lot of blood spots and come close to losing Nikita about 3 times. During the pregnancy, Ninny also lost her job.
Yep.
She had to leave Dubai, and she had to leave her husband for a while, and you had to come back to Taiwan. So it was a very stressful time of life for Ninny. And what we know is that in the final trimester, the child starts to feel all of these emotions of the mother. Now, leading up to the final weeks of Nikita's birth, what was happening for you, Ninny?
I remember we went to watch the movie with my cousin, and then I feel my belly feeling a little bit sore. And then all of a sudden we said, hey, I think we should go to the hospital and get checked up. And then I remember we went to the clinic. The doctor said, hey, did you know that you're like 1.5 fingers dilated? I was like, oh, really? But because my water didn't broke. So they say, hey, I think you should go to the bigger, the big hospital to do the preparation. I think the baby is ready to come out. So we went back home, rushed, and then we took the taxi to Taipei. And the doctor say, oh, the dilation is not, open enough. Why don't you just go and have a walk? So everything we thought that the baby's about to come out, but actually Nikita won't come out even in 24 hours. And my blood pressure start going to the roof. And the doctor say, hey, that can be dangerous to both mother and the kids. So they decided to do the C-section.
So before the C-section,
Yeah.
the doctors had me, you, your big belly, Alicia baby, walking around Taipei.
Yes.
After that, giving you a lot of medication to try to induce the pregnancy.
Yes.
And so after that, you still hadn't dilated more,
Yeah.
and you're in labour for at this stage for about 23 hours.
Yeah.
And then they started to get really worried because of your blood pressure was dropping,
No, it was going really
Was
high.
going
really
high.
high. Yeah.
and they were worried about Nikita. So they
Yeah.
quickly rushed you off then to have a C-section.
Yes.
So Nikita was born, and those final 24 hours were very stressful. Now, what we can also see here on the right-hand side was that in Nikita's first 10 months of her life, we had left Taiwan and we moved back to Australia.
Yes.
So she had to relocate at a very young age. So that was happening there. But one other thing that happened was after we got home from the hospital, we went
Yeah.
to the confinement centre
Yes.
and then we went and stayed with a Thai for a while,
Yes.
and you wouldn't sleep. You didn't want to be in your crib. You didn't like being in the room. And every time we put you in the crib, you went ballistic.
Is that right?
You'd lose your plot. You'd go bananas. So what we remember is for the first couple of months, Nikita was really disrupted in her sleep. And it was
Yes.
interesting because she would go bananas, she'd go bonkers, she'd go ballistic in her crib. But as soon as her grandmother and grandfather, Waigong and Waipo, come and picked her up and took her to their house,
She's fine.
she was fine.
Yeah.
And so it took us a long time. And even as parents, we wanted to have her sleep in her own bed. And we also wanted her to sleep in her own room,
It's not happening.
but she wouldn't. She went ballistic. And we can remember that these first few months for Nikita, there was a lot of stress there. But then at age 10 months, we'd moved from Taiwan to Australia.
Yes.
And then what happened in Australia?
I think she missed her grandparents a lot. You know, I always remember when we used to live in Parramatta. One morning I woke up, I saw her taking her little chair and put in the balcony and sitting there and watching the train pass by, and I can see, you know, from her back that loneliness in a little kid, and that was broken my heart.
And what we forget is that children are 100% emotional. They pick up on the emotional vibration
Yes.
in the family. And in the first 3 to 4 months of a child's life, they're looking for unconditional love. Now, she definitely did get that, but
Yeah.
she was also very uncomfortable in the setting. And in where we were staying, she wasn't comfortable, but she'd go back to her grandparents' house and she would.
Yeah.
Our business wasn't as successful at that stage, and we were going through a lot of stress, and we had to
Yes.
relocate to Australia. And even that first year in Australia, there was a lot of turmoil because business was up and down. We're trying to figure out business. However, we'd relocated to Australia, and then after all that effort of getting to Australia, we went all the way back to Taiwan.
I know, it's pretty insane.
And so that was all within the first year and a half
Yep.
of Nikita's birth. And we probably got back into Taiwan around about September. And so she was coming up about 1
year.
3/4.
Yeah, probably about a year and 10 months old, like almost close to 2 when we moved back to Taiwan again.
So when we got back, things were really good here.
Yeah.
Business took off.
Yep.
We settled in really well. And we
She's
can
happy.
see here from the age 2 through to 4, Nikita's fine. And then we can see some changes coming in here around about age 5, 6. What was happening around about age 5 or 6 for Nikita?
Her favorite great grandmother passed away, which is she has very, very strong bond with her.
Now, do you remember when your Thai passed away?
记得阿泰 pass 有没有 ？Yes，阿泰离开的时候，You feel sad？
Yes.
You miss her?
Yes.
How many times do you watch her video?
100.
So we know that once Nikita's great-grandmother passed away, we could see a significant change in her. You could see she was going through that grieving cycle. But here, children can't express their emotions verbally, but you can see it in the body language and the missing of her, wondering where she is, understanding that she's not here, but not understanding the whole process. And so when we look at Nikita's emotional life journey, here around about 6 years old, we can see here the passing of her great-grandmother. And that had a traumatic impact for her.
Yep. You know, one of the things I remember when grandmother passed away, one day Nikita asked me, she said, "Hey, Mom, why Atai never come to my dream and say hello to me?" And I said, "Are you missing her?" She's like, "Yep."
So we are aware of this right now, but however old you are now, you've probably forgotten about these experiences. And it's the first 7 years of your life that has the greatest impact on your life. During these first 7 years, you're looking for unconditional love, and you're looking from your mother and father. If you don't get that love, what happens to your levels of self-worth and self-esteem? They drop. From age 3 months to age 4 years, you're looking for safety and security, and you're looking from your father or the father figure in your life. And if you don't get that, you end up searching for it for the rest of your life. And psychologists do tell us that it takes about 50 years to get over the first 5 years of your life. But because of time, we end up repressing these emotions and we don't feel them. We don't have the recollection of these events that took place. But during this first 7 years, Dr. Morris Massey calls this our imprint period. We have our first emotions here. All children experience anger. All children experience sadness and loss. They experience fear and hurt. And also a lot of parents use guilt on their children to get them to clean their room, to get them to wake up in the morning to go to school. And all of that we start to carry for the rest of our life. In these first 7 years, we have to understand who we are. We have to understand who we are by going back and having a look at our emotional life journey. And once we can have a look at our emotional life journey, we can start to make some changes in our life. So we're very aware of Nikita's journey, and as parents, because we want to be the best parents we can, we want to take this into consideration as we raise our children.
Yes.
So that's Nikita's life journey. Here's mine. What do you see there, cup noodles? What can you see? Well, it's very different to yours, isn't it? There's yours, and there's Mama's. So what about me? Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. We can see here that the traumatic experiences happened for me really in the first half of my life, and after age 20, things have been considerably really good. So if I go back and have a look at the first few years of my life, each of these bars that you can see on the screen on the far right-hand side represent around about 3 to 4 years of my life. Now, when I grew up, you can see that these red bars were very high. It was around about age 10 or 11, my mum started to notice that I was having a lot of learning difficulties. I couldn't see properly. I couldn't hear properly. They said that I was tone deaf. My knees were collapsing. And so I started to have a lot of remedial therapy, and they were doing x-rays and poking and prodding. My spine was twisted, my hips were out of alignment, and my knees were collapsing. And I also had some really significant learning disabilities. What I knew at age 11, I'd lived the first 11 years of my life with extreme pain. My cranium, my skull, as it formed, it was pushing down on the left hemisphere of the brain. And this was causing migraine headaches. So I only knew what life was like living with this migraine headache. And because of the pressure on the brain, I couldn't see properly. It was affecting my hearing. It was affecting my motor skills as well. And so when I reflect here, there was so much wrong with me and going wrong in these first 10 and 11 years of my life. And I've got a list here of things. I had a linear sequential learning disability. I was tone deaf. My knees, my hips were collapsing. My back was out of alignment. My skull, the cranium was pushing down on the top of my brain. They were present. I had a lot of allergies. I was having problems with asthma. My bronchioles were collapsing inside of the lungs. And there was a lot of pressure for me here. At school, I was in all the special classes to try to catch up with everybody. I couldn't read properly. I couldn't see properly. After school, I was constantly in remedial therapy. I was having cranial realignment. They'd massage my brain to get the skull back into shape. I had to go to QMON. I had to go to master coaching. And then, this is just around about age 11. After age 11, we can see that G bar, and it drops down to G, then down to F sharp. Here, it got worse. Around about age 15, I had teenage chicken pox. I had a lot of stress at school. I was finding it very hard at school, and I developed Epstein-Barr virus and chronic fatigue. And all I'd do was sleep. And so I missed significant portions of school. And eventually, I just couldn't go back because I'd missed so much. I was so far behind. But after I left school, I then had 2 reconstructions on my knees in almost 2 consecutive years. And so for that first 18 years of my life, it was just physical and emotional pain.
Yeah.
And then everything got really good. And so by using this artificial intelligence, it has mapped out my emotional life journey. And I can go back and pinpoint these exact moments in my life where there was significant emotional events.
Yep.
Areas that were holding me back. And by having this information, one, my self-awareness goes up. I understand why I think and feel the way that I do. I better understand my strengths and my weaknesses, which helps me become much more effective in my personal life, but also in my professional life.
Yep. Beautiful.
And so this technology is now available for you to use. And if you'd like to experience your own emotional life journey using artificial intelligence, what we do is we take a 90-second voice recording. We have our artificial intelligence measure your brain wave frequencies. In 90 seconds, we can identify 1,441 blind spots, and we can show you exactly what you need to do to be able to break through those limitations in your life.
Yep.
Great piece of technology. We understand ourselves better.
Yep.
I understand my wife better, why she bashes me all the time.
I love it.
And I understand my baby girl even
Yeah.
better, and we can be more effective partners,
Yeah.
but more effective parents. So thank you for joining us today. Ninny, any final thoughts for you today?
I think by using this technology, one of the very good benefit is that they also help you to identify what is your frequent emotion and what is your core emotion. And with those core emotions, usually is layered in your subconscious mind. So they can help you to identify what is your core emotion that have been holding you back. And once you can realize what's really holding you back, and you can start doing something about it. Because, as Daniel said, I know once we've done this, all our self-awareness increase because we know how can we do about it. So I think it's beautiful technology.
And Nikita's very happy about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the live stream today. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Wherever you are, Nikita, say have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day.
Ciao
Have a
for now.
wonderful day. Bye-bye.